Can I start with Ukraine? There must come a point, mustn't there, where allies like Britain supporting President Zelensky say, actually, now is the time to negotiate. We can't just give them a total veto over that, can we?
Well, I said this morning that we would continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. They are suffering at the hands of an illegal and barbaric invasion from the Russians, and I think it's incumbent on the Russians to stop that. Our job is to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position so that they can decide when the time is right for them to negotiate.
Ukraine decides. I mean, that might be a very long, a long bit further in terms of the borders, 2014 borders, say, than British public opinion, American public opinion is happy with. It can't be just the Ukrainians that decide. We must have some...
Actually, we have a good dialogue with the Ukrainians, as do our allies, and I think we're united in our approach to supporting Ukraine. That's been the conversation that I've had with our partners here, because what Russia is doing is abhorrent. It's illegal, it's wrong, it's causing widespread devastation across the world, and we must ensure that Ukraine has the strength it requires to negotiate from a position where it's not being dictated to, and they will rightly make a determination about the right approach to that, and in the meantime we should provide them with all the support that we can, and our allies are united with us in that approach.
The situation back home, I know you don't want to talk about what in detail is in the autumn statement, but it's perfectly clear there are going to be real terms cuts for in the public sector. The British public have sat there. George Osborne once told them we're nearly out of austerity. Theresa May told them we are out of austerity. Boris Johnson won an election telling everybody austerity was over. It just seems to go on and on under recent Conservative governments. It's going on again, isn't it?
Actually, what you will see, and what you have seen over the past few years, is very strong increases in investment in public services, actually, and whether that's in our NHS, whether that's in schools, whether that's putting more police officers on the street.
Tell me a public service you think is currently doing a proper job, is actually working adequately, working properly. Tell me one.
Well, actually, there's plenty of examples I could give, but right now we invested £5 billion.
No, I'm asking which public service is working.
Let me answer the question. We invested £5 billion to help our school children catch up on the lost learning that they missed out of because of COVID. And as part of that, we put in place a absolutely historic tutoring programme, the likes of which we've never done in this country, which is going to make an enormous, and is making an enormous difference to so many children up and down the country.
The reason I'm asking...
Yes, there's lots we're getting on with.
The reason I'm asking is because you've always been a passionate supporter of a smaller state, so are many of your colleagues in the party. But you've spoken there particularly of a one-off emergency injection of cash into a particular public service. Don't you think it's time over the years, now so many years of austerity have passed, to maybe rethink whether the British state actually needs to be bigger in order to make sure that there is an adequate service for health, for education, to deal with the demographic time bomb, to satisfy public needs, because that might be where the public is. You might be out of date now.
Well, my track record, both as Chancellor and you'll see in this job, are making sure that our public services are strong. And I think people
but you still haven't told me one that is, one that's working properly.
I just did.
One that's working properly.
Well, let's keep going, because you talking about abstract notions like the size of the state. What people want to know...
I'm quoting from lectures.
What people want to know is, are the things that they rely on delivering for them? So let's talk.
Exactly.
So let's talk. What do people want? They want the streets that they walk around in to be safe. We've put 15,000 more police officers on the street on our way to 20,000, and crime is coming down as a result. That's an example
of us delivering. There's an awful lot of crimes that don't get dealt with. You're not telling me that crime is dealt with properly in this country, in Britain at the moment, are you?
I'm answering your question, and I'm saying actually we've put 15,000 more police officers on the street, and they are making a difference in bringing down crime. You asked me about our schools. We're investing money in helping children catch up with lost learning, and we're seeing that that's making a difference. And yes, the NHS of course is under pressure, but there are thousands more nurses in the NHS this year than there were last year. We've put more money in to help get the elective backlogs down. Of course we'd like to see faster progress on these things, but it's wrong to say that we are not making investments and they are not making a difference.
Our country's been through an extraordinary saga recently. You could say inflicted by the Conservative Party, by your Conservative colleagues. Do you come here feeling that you are the leader of a diminished country? We've been the laughingstock on a lot of front pages around the world.
You know, what I've seen here, talking to other leaders, and it's an enormous amount of goodwill for the United Kingdom to be a successful, engaged, active member of the global community. There's been enormous respect, gratitude and praise for the leadership that Boris Johnson and the UK more generally has shown on Ukraine. We're an engaged member of the international community when it comes to resolve how we can make sure that food is flowing to developing countries. So actually people think we do have a role to play.
But we have been through an extraordinary saga.
I will carry on doing.
We've been through an extraordinary saga. You've just called it a mistake. You said you don't seem to want to apologise for it. But the mini-government of Liz Truss, with its mini-budget, goes to the heart of the ungovernability of the Conservative Party, doesn't it? And that's a problem still for you. It's why you've had to appoint a whole load of people from her cabinet, a whole load of people you probably don't think are in the right job. You're still trying to struggle with governing this ungovernable party, aren't you?
On the first speech I gave as Prime Minister from the steps of Downing Street, I acknowledged that mistakes had been made.
That's quite weird.
I'm also,
a lot of people want more than that.
I'm also the one
if Keir Starmer stood there every time you punch the bruise of Jeremy Corbyn and say, it was just a mistake.
If I could just answer, I said on the steps of Downing Street from the first time I addressed the country that mistakes were made. I'm the one that's taking responsibility for that and now going about fixing it. And I think that's what people want to see, because what they want is to know that inflation is going to come down, that we can limit the increase in mortgage rates, that we can actually stabilise the economy and command the confidence of international markets. That's what this Conservative government will deliver, not as the end in itself, but as the means to providing a platform for us to create jobs across the country and to have an economy that can invest in public services. You know, that's what me and my team in government, that I don't make any apology for the fact that it's drawn from across my party.
You're governing warring tribes.
Good thing. It's a good thing to bring people together, to work constructively in the national interest. That's why I put myself forward to doing this job, and that's what I want this government to deliver.
Thank you, Prime Minister.